Hello, this evening I am going to talk to you about bike touring, also known as bike packing. Sorry, just a nice little pun for you to start the speech off. So, bike touring and bike packing. Why am I even talking about this? Well, last summer I went on a holiday for 5 days with my boyfriend and his best friend, and we went bike packing. So we took our bikes, we attached our bags and our tents and everything to our bikes, and off we went for 5 days. This was probably one of the more crazy holidays I let myself be talked into, but what can I say? I'm hooked! And this summer, we're not going for 5 days, we're going for 20 days. 20 days where I have to attach my entire life to my bike and cycle. This probably sounds completely crazy, but actually it was probably one of the best holidays I ever had last year. I'd never been camping before, or maybe only like when I was in the guides or brownies and had a lot of comfort. I'd never cycled this many kilometers in my life, and yet I survived and I loved it. So there are many things you need to consider if you want to go bike packing. Firstly, you need some very basic equipment such as a bicycle, a tent, a sleeping bag, some sports clothing, this kind of thing. But it's not so simple. You don't just need any old bike. I mean, perhaps my boyfriend and his best friend will disagree with me when I say this, because one of them did it on a mountain bike, one of them had a VTC, which is an all-terrain bike, and I have a all-terrain bike myself as well. So when you look on websites about bike packing, there are lots of pieces of advice about the type of bicycle you need. But of course, not everyone has 8,000 euros to buy the perfect bike touring bicycle. We can't all have drop handlebars and a special pannier luggage rack on the back of our bicycle. That's just not how life works. Some of us also like to use our bicycle today to go park at the station before coming to Pips. And I wanted my bike to be suitable for everyday rides, not just 20 days from Nantes to Bordeaux. Anyway, we'll get to Nantes to Bordeaux later. That's the upcoming trip. So you need to look at the type of bicycle you need, and this kind of depends on the type of roads or cycle routes you'll be doing. So last summer we did the Normandy coastline, and a lot of the time we were on beachy tracks and roads, or just smaller cycle paths, like the kind of path you might find if you have a dog and you go for a walk in the forest. So it's a trodden path, so you don't really need a mountain bike, and you don't need too thick a grip on your tyres, you don't need a big tread. But equally you don't want a road bike, because a road bike has a very, very thin tread, and you're likely to just get a puncture as soon as you step off of a road. So I have an all-terrain bike, and this is kind of the best solution for not having to change your wheels and carry a ton of spare tyres with you and inner tubes and all of this. So you need to pick your bicycle. So if you are going to go bike packing for the first time, I suggest not a mountain bike, not a road bike, something in between. Then, of course, as I've said, you could get a puncture, so you need to carry with you a repair kit. In your repair kit, you need to have an inner tube, maybe a spare tyre. You need to have these special tools that you use to change the tyre if you get a puncture, although, of course, a spoon will do. If it comes to it, you can just use the other side of a spoon, or any other piece of cutlery, really. I suggest taking cable ties, just in case you break a spoke or something like this, and you can fix most things with cable ties and a bit of gaffer tape, let's face it. Just general repair gear, probably a bike pump, like a mini one that attaches to your bike frame. It's quite useful. We have one of those, as well as a more hefty duty one for at home. What we did with our group last year was to coordinate the repair gear, so we didn't have 3 sets of puncture change tools, and we didn't have 3 sets of bike tools. We just had 1 tool between all of us and 1 pump between all of us, just to try and lighten the load a little. And as I'm talking about load, you need somewhere to keep all your stuff. I mean, I, for one, will admit I am terrible. I can't go anywhere without 5 suitcases. I take so much stuff with me everywhere I go that for me, packing for a holiday on a bicycle is really quite difficult. But you need somewhere to keep your stuff. Last year, we bought a set of panniers. Panniers are what go on the back of your bike. It attaches to the luggage rack on the back. So you have to fit a luggage rack if you don't have one. You probably need to get panniers that are fitted, that are waterproof. We had a set of 2 side panniers with a top bag, a rack pack that zips round onto the 2. And so my boyfriend had a massive amount of stuff on the back of his bike. And then on my bike, we had the tent, roll mats, all this kind of stuff just attached with bungee cords, just strung on the back of the bike. But at a certain point, my boyfriend found that having the panniers and the rack pack on top was just too much. So he took the rack pack and converted it to a backpack, and he started cycling with a rucksack. Our friend Max came the whole time with one of those big trekking rucksacks that you have if you're going to climb a mountain. I find that is really not a solution. Most websites you see tell you do not go on a bike tour with a backpack. However, this summer my boyfriend will be cycling with a backpack. He was utterly converted, and our friend will also be doing the same. This summer, maybe hopefully a few more people will be joining us, and I think that I would really advise them not to use a backpack. I myself have planned to use 1 pannier, just with very light equipment in, such as my pillow. Yes, I take a pillow camping. I'm not that extreme. A pillow, inflatable mattress, and towel, this kind of thing, a sleeping bag, things that are bulky but not heavy. And then I'm going to strap a backpack onto the back of my bike, just a 20-litre backpack with the rest of my stuff in, so that it's not too heavy and it doesn't affect the balance of the bicycle. But you really need to consider your options, because there are so many things out there. If you look at people who go bike touring for months and months, they essentially have every space of the bike frame occupied with specialist bags. You can even get a bag on your handlebars. You can get bags that go in the centre of the frame where you normally have your water bottle, just bags all over the bike frame, which I just think is a little bit much for a 20-day trip. So I'm going to pack very, very light. Another important thing about your bicycle is to consider changing your pedals. So last summer I just had regular bike pedals like on any old bike, but this summer I'm going to change them to special pedals where you have a clip-on shoe. So it's not a flat pedal, it's got a little lump on it, and your shoe can click in and out. This means that when you're pedaling, as your feet go, you're only pressing with one foot, the foot that's going down. This means that when you're rising your other foot, because it's connected to the pedal, you're actually pulling the pedal up at the same time. This means that you're using all of your energy at all times, so you're actually pedaling with less effort to keep pedaling. But there is a catch with these, that I need to change them very soon on my bicycle so that I can get used to it, because every time you stop you have to click your foot in and out, so you need to be used to how to detach your foot if you have to brake suddenly, so that you don't just end up keeling over with the bike and all your gear. So I'm going to be changing that very soon. As on the last trip our friend had these pedals and he was definitely a lot less tired than I was. So that's it for your type of bike. Then you need to think about camping. So of course a lot of bike trips don't involve camping. They actually would be the luxury option where you pay for a tour and they provide hotels or hostels or essentially a real bed to sleep in. And these trips are all organised. Usually they would also pick up your stuff for you, so you could travel with an actual suitcase. and they would shift this from hotel to hotel every night for you. But I mean, we're on a budget, and where's the fun in that? So we go camping, and this means you have to carry your tent. If you need any stove or anything, I mean, last time we just bought food in supermarkets. We didn't really cook apart from barbecues, and then in the morning we'd find coffee somewhere en route. But so you need a mattress to sleep on, a sleeping bag, pillow, towels, all your basic camping equipment, including the tent, of course. And then the tent is another thing, because all of this equipment you can buy, and most people go camping with a car. Most people don't camp and have to attach it all to their bike and carry it with them all day. So often you can find quite lightweight equipment for people who go trekking, but this equipment is very expensive. So it's kind of a sum up also between comfort, necessity and budget that you need to take into consideration. I'm quite pleased because my boyfriend and I have a 3-man tent, but honestly it's way too small for 3 people. But for 2 it means we're comfortable, we can put all our stuff along one side of the tent, you can sit upright fully in our tent, which is actually quite an advantage, because if it's raining, you don't want to be in one of those long, narrow tents where you have to get in and lay down straight away. Sometimes you want to sit up. And on our last tour in Normandy, we did have 2 nights of rain. So it was great that we could all sit in our tent and sit upright and play card games in the rain and not just have to lay individually in our tents bored in the evening. So you may be wondering, how on earth am I going to go camping and cycling for 20 days with a backpack? Well, yes, clothing really is something you have to take into account. So most people own sports gear. You probably go to the gym or rock climbing, or you have yoga pants, or you have some sort of sports gear. But when it comes to a full day cycling, a lot of this gear is fine for 1 day, but not for more than 1 day. You will really regret it. So last year I had 1 pair of cycle shorts. When I say cycle shorts, the reason they're so specific is because they have a padding inside, and this liner padding prevents chafing and saddle sore. This honestly saved my life. I don't know how I would have cycled on day 4 without these magic shorts. This year I will definitely buy a 2nd pair. But what we did last year was we took minimal clothing. This year I'm probably going to take 2 t-shirts, 2 pairs of shorts for the days, a waterproof jacket, something to warmer for the evening and to sleep in, bikini and a towel. That's it. Maybe a luxury of 1 summer clothing item if I can, and a pair of flip-flops. I think that's it. And we usually just wash our clothes very often at the campsites. But I highly recommend you get a pair of cycle shorts if you are considering doing this kind of trip. It really, really will stop you getting saddle sore. So, you've got all of your equipment together. Where are you going to go? Well, this is the great thing about France. There are so many cycle paths. I live right along the cycle path that goes from London to Paris, and this summer we're going to be doing 3 different bike paths from Nantes all the way to Bordeaux via 3 islands, the Île Noirmoutier, Île de Ré, and another island I don't remember, no, Île de Oléron, the 3rd one. And we'll also go past Arcachon to see the big sand dune. We're going to go onto the Cap Ferret. There'll be 2 boats and I think 6 nights on islands, and it's going to be an amazing trip. It's just a shame I don't like oysters, because everywhere along the trip are top oyster spots, but I don't like them. So I hope the others do. At least someone will get to enjoy them. But when you plan your trip, you need to take into account how many kilometers or miles you're going to cycle every day. So we've decided that we're going to do maximum of 60 kilometers a day and 3 days in a row before we get a rest day. So I've been looking a lot of advice online about how much training we should do, how much preparation, how many kilometers is reasonable to do a day, because let's face it, I don't go out cycling 60 kilometers every day normally. The first 3 days are probably going to be awful because I'll be so sore. So I should start training. I found advice where you should be doing, so if I'm going to do 60 kilometers a day, we should do about 40 a day in the run up to the trip. But of course I am not actually going to be in France or with my bicycle before the trip for the month beforehand. So I'm going to have to, I don't know, run or something else. If you can't cycle beforehand, you should definitely do any form of cardio exercise. That's great. Don't really need to worry about weightlifting or weighted exercises. It really is about the cardio. The first day of the trip, you definitely should not aim to do the full 60 kilometers or whatever your daily average is going to be. I would more recommend you do half the distance on the first day just to warm your muscles up. This is what is on the plan I've made for this summer. And then you need to plan how you're going to get there. Are you going to go by train? Are you going to go by car and leave your car somewhere for a week or 2 weeks? Are you going to cycle to your destination? Does your trip start from home? You need to really think about the logistics. I think for this summer we're currently looking into options of hiring a van. So if we hire a van, then most of us can put our bikes in the van. A couple of us will drive it down to Nantes, and then everyone else can join us by train or car, depending on their preferences. This seems like the cheapest option. And then my route is kind of based on campsites, because I kind of cheated actually. So for our holiday, I found a website where you could pay 1,500 euros, I know, shocking, to do this trip, where they'd planned it all for you, and you had the hotel option where they booked the hotels for you and they collected your luggage, but they only did like 30 kilometers a day. That's really like not a lot of cycling, maybe like 2 hours if it's flat, maybe less even, depends how fast you go, how much stuff you have, etc. And we really want to do 60 kilometers a day because actually our trip is nearly 800 kilometers, so you can imagine how long it would take if we only did 30 kilometers a day. You're talking like 2 months of holiday. So we're going to do 60 kilometers a day. So I found this route that goes kind of where we want to go along some bike paths. It's 98% bike path, no road, which is much nicer. And I just adapted the trip that already exists because they put the whole trip on their website. So copy paste, and then I just did a lot of Googling for where campsites are and where matches up to our daily limit, so that we also get some nice rest day spots on the Ile de Ré and Cap Ferret, all these nice places that we'll get to enjoy, not just zoom right past and end up spending a rest day somewhere boring. But there is one thing you can't plan for: the weather. So hopefully we're going to have nice weather. I really don't know, because at the end of the day we are going along the coast, so it might not be ideal. So those of you coming with me, I definitely suggest you bring some kind of waterproof jacket, something warm in case it's not very nice at night. But at the same time, hopefully we're going to need tons of sun cream, our bikinis for every lunchtime swim along the beach, and that we're going to have an amazing holiday. So if any of you are now tempted to go bikepacking, let me know. I can send you some websites with information. I can tell you about the trip I'm planning this summer, and hopefully in a few months' time I can show you some nice victory photos as I reach the end with the sand dune, and we get to enjoy a nice glass of wine in Bordeaux at the end of 20 days and 789 kilometers of cycling.